Well, this video is about RC car LiPo fires and how to avoid them, but it just shows you just how spectacularly LiPo fire can be to any form of RC vehicle, be it a drone or a car.
Now, can you tell at a glance which one of these LiPo batteries is the most dangerous one out here? Or which one of these in this box might be a dangerous one? Or the ones in this box? Or the ones down in this box over here? Go on, have a guess right now. Well, welcome to today's video on RC LiPo fires and how to avoid them. Well, the short answer is there's going to be some visual clues to be had on these batteries, but the main way of finding out if they're any good is to use a LiPo checker like this. Well, RC car LiPos come in many different colours, different sizes, different shapes, different cases, etc, etc. Which of these is a good battery? Which of these is a bad battery? Can you guess? You cannot tell a thing from looking at the outside of any of these, other than ones like this, which if you look at it closely, it's got a little bit of a bend in it, not too much, from where Richie has pranged it in one of his cars. Well, your first port of call when it comes to deciding which of any of your LiPo batteries is good or not is an RC LiPo checker. If you have not got one of these and you're using LiPos, go out and buy one today. Well, not literally go out and buy one, but buy one online for obvious reasons. Because this thing could well save your car, your house, your garage from burning down, because it will tell you exactly what state the cells in the battery are in and what voltage they're at. Now, I'll put a link to this LiPo checker and the one I use from Banggood also below the video, which is a little bit cheaper than this one. But however, you can see every cell voltage on it, and if I turn it round, you can see the percentage of the battery as well. Now, the one thing most of us have on our hands right now is time. So if you've got one of these LiPo checkers, or even if you've not, get one on order and check all of your LiPos. I've probably got like 40 or 50 locked away in those different fireproof cabinets over there, but more on the fireproof element in a minute. Because looking after LiPos does take time, and it is something that yours truly is not the best at doing. And I do go through like about once or twice a month, but I should probably take the time to do it weekly. As I say, a lot of us have got time on our hands right now. So why not use that time to go out and check your LiPos today? Because I guarantee someone in the comment section will use one of these, check their LiPos, and like find one that was dangerously low to the point of exploding on that box that they're tucked away under the firewood that's stored in their garage, that could have burnt the thing down. I guarantee that somebody will have commented by the end of this video that they have found a Duff battery either using this or physically going through and checking them and thinking, that doesn't look good, Richie. Anyway, let's get straight down to some of the things that can cause RC LiPo fires. We have time on our hands now, use it to avoid them. Okay, well, in today's video I'm going to talk about the three main causes of RC car LiPo fires and how you can avoid them to an extent on that, okay? I'm also going to talk about the quality of the batteries, because I hear people say, oh, if you buy cheap LiPos, that's a disaster, they're going to catch fire. But more on that in just a second, because this one I'm holding ain't cheap. It is one of two. The other one I no longer have. Okay, well, on the first of my points, I would say overcharging, or more to the point, bad charging. But this is not necessarily the most common thing when it comes to RC car LiPo fires. It might be when it comes to LiPo fires, but not fires in the car. There's a big differentiation, which I'll come on into a second. If you are dumb enough to use a charger like this, which plugs into the mains but gives out 12 volts DC, and you connect it to your LiPo thinking it'll charge it fast, and it's got no balance lead attached to it, it is just thumping power into this thing until eventually it swells up and explodes just like this.
Now just imagine if this happens in your garage next to all of your plastic RC cars. It is not going to end well for you or house or your garage in particular.
There is nothing like investing money in a good charger like the Venom Pro Quad one on here. You may think you can get away with a cheaper charger on there, but it's the safety functions that are worth paying for. You can use the cheapest of LiPos going, to my mind. It is not the LiPos that are necessarily the bad thing. It is using a poor, low quality charger. This is a high quality charger. I appreciate this charger is slightly at the higher end, $200 on there, but there are plenty of lower end chargers in there in that $50 to $75 range, which will save your house from burning down. Do not use something like that DC charger I just showed you. So to avoid overcharging problems with your lipos, spend the money on a decent lipo charger. You can buy cheap lipos. It's the charger that is the key to my mind. Okay, and if you use a DC charger to charge a LiPo battery on its own without a balance lead, it will result in something like this.
Now you can see here, with the wrong charger, the LiPo has swollen to the point of near on explosion. Luckily, this end user spotted it in time, but that was very nearly catastrophic fire as a result of the wrong charging.
Now, that gentleman was very lucky indeed. He was at home, as he said. He had his LiPo bag on the side. Speaking of which, no matter what size my LiPos are, I'm charging either large ones like this or small ones like this. I still put them in one of these fire safety bags from Venom. But as I say, when it comes to RC car LiPo fires, as opposed to just LiPo fires, I would say overcharging is probably the least likely one to occur. However, if you are daft enough to use something like this to charge a LiPo in your house unattended, it will most likely burn down the house. I have used that Venom Pro Quad and left it on overnight charging a battery, which will horrify some people. The thing is absolutely 100% fine on there. I have a lot of faith in that, a lot of faith in the Venom charger. So I would say invest in a good charger as opposed to investing in an expensive battery. Why do I say that, Richie? Well, that comes on to the next point, and I said 3 at the start, and I think I've got 4 points, which is like just simply a bad battery. I had these Reaction 50C packs, about $125, $150 a piece, which I bought for the Losi XLE, which is behind the camera there. One of them, and I look after these like gold dust at that price. They're always storage charged, etc. Out driving in the car one day, and smoke starts to come from the car. They're like fully charged. I'm in 10 minutes into running things, pouring with smoke. I ripped the thing out, and one of these has just burst open. So I just threw it, luckily, into a saltwater puddle that was near me, which is actually one of the safest things to do. Is I put it in salt water and it will just bubble away. But my point is, it just shows you can have the most expensive packs going, and it can still fail on you, even when taken care of very, very nicely.
Just remember, guys, if you like what you see today, don't forget to subscribe.
Well, I did mention when it came to LiPo fires, overcharging is probably the biggest cause of LiPo fires. But this video is about RC car LiPo fires. And to my mind, at point number 2, and probably the most important one, is the over-discharging of LiPos in RC cars. Most RC cars have a mode that you can set on the ESC. It can either be set for nickel metal hydride batteries or for LiPos. If you have it set on nickel metal hydride mode and you put a LiPo in there, the battery will drop too low in its voltage. To talk a little bit about LiPos, they have an operating range of between 2.7 volts and 4.2 volts. If you overcharge them, the polymer that separates the lithium and the carbon inside the battery will begin to degrade. So if you go up above 4.2 volts, the pack begins to burst open, as you saw in that clip just now, swell open, burst into flames. Likewise, if you drop below 2.7 volts, the same thing begins to happen to the polymer. The polymer begins to degrade and you get that puffiness occurring in there. So even though the battery is discharging, it's still expanding and eventually will explode. And I will show you a prime example of that in just a second. And the reason why it's probably the most common form of RC car LiPo fires, as opposed to just LiPo fires, is it's very easy to pick one of your RC cars up, forget which mode it's in, stick a LiPo in there and it's set on nickel metal hydride. You're driving around for 20 minutes, 25 minutes thinking, hey, this huge LiPo packs give me like 25, nearly 30 minutes of driving time. But in the meantime, that is dropping below that 2.7 volts and that pack inside the car is swelling up and it will suddenly just burst into flames. So even though it's over discharging, it will expand and burst into flames just like this.
And if that does happen, you had better run like hell, because if not, your car is going to be going up in flames. Now, to my mind, this person was not running fast enough. They realise they're now in trouble. They're getting the body pins off very quickly. Fear is kicking in. You can see why. If that shell had melted over the car, they could have kissed goodbye to probably about $600 to $800 worth of RC gear.
Now that real world footage wasn't of my own armour infraction, but it just shows what you've got to risk if a battery goes badly wrong through over discharging or there is simply a fault on the battery. Because you can simply buy bad batteries, expensive ones, cheap ones, at some point you will buy a duff one. But here is an example of a battery where I short circuited it out, so you can see an extreme example of over discharging and what happened to the pack, which might be quite eye-opening and give you some idea of what was going on inside that car.
Now this is an extreme example of over discharging, but it's fast and to the point and shows you just how much power a Lipo has in it. Particularly if it is over discharging, you will begin to see it swelling in just a second, and the results are then fairly dramatic to say the least. Now imagine that happening when the battery is still in your RC car. Goodbye $500-600.
That is an extreme example, but I thought it worth showing because that is so dramatic, and that is essentially what is happening if you're driving around and suddenly smoke starts pouring out of your RC car. That's what's happened to it. It's expanded inside. If you are not fast enough to the car's 200 feet away, 300 feet away. By the time you've run there, if the shell catches on fire, kiss the RC car goodbye, because unless you can get the shell off fast, the thing will just be ablaze before you can remove the battery. So, over discharging to be avoided at all costs. How to avoid that? Very, very simple indeed. Make sure your ESC is set to LiPo mode every time you're using LiPos. Okay, when it comes to point number 3 on the causes of RC car LiPo fires, it's puncturing or breaking apart the battery. Now I did mention LiPos come in many different flavours and colours. You will note this is the one I showed at the start of the video. It has a slight bend in it. It's nothing to worry about. The pack isn't broken. None of the cells appear to be damaged on there. And you can also get hard shell LiPos on there. You can in general buy LiPos of any size in a hard shell format. However, the very large ones, like these sort of 5000 milliamp packs, tend to be soft shell ones in there. Now, to take you back to school, something I learned at school, lithium is what they call an earth metal, and exposed to air on its own, it just bursts into flames. So they actually store lithium in oil. They don't store it in water or anything like that. In fact, if you throw a piece of lithium into water, as what my science teacher did at school, the thing just explodes and foams around, lots of smoke, sparks coming out the thing, etc. Quite dramatic. The same thing happens if you puncture one of these LiPo packs and the air gets through to the lithium. It's not quite as dramatic as throwing a piece of raw lithium into water, but the results are something like this if you drive a nail through one.
So we get some fireproof gloves on, a large hammer and a nail, hammer it in as though we're puncturing the cell, and there you're sitting back, you're thinking nothing's happening, Richie boy, at all, and then the smoke begins to pour out and it begins to fizz, whistle, etc. Now bear in mind this could be happening inside your RC car, as could that explosion. And bear in mind that gas that is coming out of there is red hot, okay? Not on fire as yet, but trust me, any plastic that gas touches, the thing is just going to melt, set on fire in very short order. Look at the damage to that. That's what could happen to the inside of your car in the event of a puncture failure.
Quite dramatic, eh? But in general, I would say it is probably the least cause of RC car LiPo fires is a puncturing of the cell in there. Indeed, to my mind, if you have hit something so hard that you have shattered the case on this, broken a cell open, or hit something so hard that this is like concertinaed up and burst open to the air, then the LiPo fire is the least of your worries, because you ain't gonna have much of an RC car left if you have hit it that hard. Yours truly was running this 8S Lipo in the Traxxas Rally the other day, and more fool me, I did not have it tied down very well. I used a Velcro on the bottom of it and it tumbled out. It put a little score down the side of the outside of the tape on that. I was very, very lucky indeed. More fool me, so do as I say, not as I do. Make sure your LiPos are strapped down, because the chances are, if you have a puncture fire inside of the car, it's because the LiPo is flown around inside of the car and come loose. So always make sure your LiPos are strapped down. I should have done that, so learn from my mistakes. And if you're wondering about all these LiPos out here on the bench, Are they stored safely because they're not in tins? Well, let me explain a little bit about how they're laid out and why they're laid out like this. Now, typically, I don't have this many batteries laid out on the side at once, but it is not uncommon to have 6, 7 or 8 of them laid out on the side. You will notice one thing about how I lay them out on the side. Every one of these batteries has the wires on the next one opposite to it, so they're this end, this one, this end, that one, this and this one, this and that one, this and this one. It limits the possibility of the leads striking each other, shorting out, because the power these things have got, if the leads merely touch, you're going to get arcing and things could potentially weld themselves together in a millisecond, and then both batteries are going to go up on your workbench. So there we have it. That was my top 3 points on how to avoid RC car LiPo fires. This video wasn't necessarily about how to take the best care of your LiPos. I may do another video on that in future. It was merely to point out that expensive batteries can go wrong just as fast as cheap ones can. A lot of it comes down to how you charge the batteries and, more importantly, how you use them. Just remember that when it comes to over discharging them, because over discharging can cause a fire just as fast as overcharging can. I hope you like this one, folks. And while we've got time on our hands, use this time to go and check your LiPos out. Give them a bit of TLC. Thanks for watching.
Well, thumbs up if you like this video, guys. Post any comments you might have in the comment section below the video and hit the circle below to subscribe. And if you do hit the circle, don't forget to hit the bell.